everybody. Welcome back. It's our second chat of the month. We're very excited to have Janis Robinson Daly with us to talk about her book. I'm here. I'm Barbara Tanner Wallace. I'm here with Donna Jones Allward. Donna, what's new?
Not much. I do have one thing that's new. I went to an event on Sunday night with local booksellers, and my HarperCollins rep was there. And so I finally got to get my hands on a paperback arc When the World Fell Silent. So that's really, really cool. I was really happy to actually hold it in my hands. And so that comes out August 6th in Canada, August 1st in the US.
We have a chat coming up about it, just so everyone knows, and I'm not doing it. We're bringing in guest hosts to actually give the review of it so that it's not too biased.
Yeah, and I'm
Donna's going to chat about her own book.
I'm going to be doing other things that week, like book launches and all kinds of fun stuff. So
I'll be here. I just won't be saying anything. So, and not much was going on here with me, unless you want to hear about my cat licking itself bald, or.
I think that says it all, Barb.
Yeah, I actually think I put up on Facebook. I don't own cats. I run a feline asylum.
That's it.
They all have issues. Every single one of them has issues. Right now, I'm just with Fat Sam, who people know from Instagram, because she's just.
Yeah, Janis. During every broadcast, one of Barb's cats inevitably makes an appearance on the top of her chair. So we'll see when that happens.
I'll wait. Screen capture at that moment.
That's it. So how you doing, Janis? How was Tom Brady's event? We should ask the most important question first. Janis went to Tom Brady's Hall of Fame induction.
Yeah, we're a little bit crazy people here in New England. So 30-year season ticket holders of the New England Patriots. Wow. So seen a lot over those 30 years.
He sold out Gillette. It was
sold out. 60,000 people, and a game wasn't even being played, or a concert.
Yeah. I saw the clip of Drew Bledsoe, who pointed out that he was the worst backup quarterback to ever play.
It was fun.
Yeah, it looked like it was a really good time. And it was good weather, so I'm glad you had a good time.
Perfect.
So now we're going to talk about your book, though.
Yes, we are.
You are the author of The Unlocked Path, which is a story about what it was like. Life was like. We have a little cover here. Put it up.
There it is.
It's talks about life as for the early female physicians that came out of the women's med college that your great grandfather helped found, right?
Yes. And that's actually what led me to writing the book. I had no intention of writing a book ever in my life. It was never an aspiration. I was never a writer. Love to read, love books, but writing them never crossed my mind. I really was just doing genealogy research and discovered my great-great-grandfather, William Pierce, over up there on the wall. We've got a portrait of him, was one of the founders of this women's medical college, the first in the United States, all women's college for medicine in Philadelphia in 1850. So once I started researching the college and meeting these amazing women, I was like, their stories need to be told. Yeah. I guess I'll tell them.
So now, but it also ties in that you sort of invented a backstory for your great grandmother, right?
My grandmother, yeah. So it was researching her family because I didn't know much about this grandmother. She passed before I was born, but I was always intrigued about her history of coming from Philadelphia to Boston and how that happened. So I pegged the story and the main character, Eliza Edwards, to the timeline of my grandmother's life, coming of age in 1897, moving to Boston. And so that time period, which is so rich in history, Donna certainly knows that, because my story goes up to 1920.
Yeah.
We have
it's the bald cat.
Oh,
green grab time.
He's going to the doctor's tomorrow.
Poor Minnie.
Yeah. But then, okay, so one of the things I thought was really cool was if you go on your webpage, you talk about some of the female doctors that you discovered and you kind of weave them into the book. And the one that fascinated me the most was that it was this woman from India was one of the first graduates of the school.
Yeah. It was her story that totally stopped me dead in my tracks. And I just learned 2 weeks ago, I was at a writers conference in Tennessee, and a woman from India, a woman I learned later, she was a woman physician from India, corrected me on the pronunciation of her name that I've been saying.
Oh, that's good.
So Anna D. Gopal Joshi came from India, because women came from all over the world to go to this college.
Yeah.
And I was learning about her through additional research with the Drexel University archives. The school eventually finally merged with Drexel. So Drexel has all the archival material.
Okay.
And I learned, more about Anna D. coming from India at age 18, because she had such a strong desire to study medicine and hopes of returning then back to India to care for all the women who didn't receive the proper care that they deserved.
Yeah.
And that's a theme right in the book.
Her drive. Yeah.
Well, and it's also that women aren't getting the proper care. That's a huge theme in the book.
Right.
She does play the inspiration for Eliza.
Yes.
Oh, Donnelly wanted to say, wonderful seeing your work, Janis.
Oh, thank you, Donnelly.
Yeah, and so one of the challenges with biographical fiction is trying to keep the tension up or conflict throughout the story, because you, like you said, you're following a timeline and like certain things that happen. So how did you work that out when you were writing this book?
Well, certainly the historical events of the time created conflict and tension.
Right.
Yeah.
When you throw in a pandemic like the Spanish flu, or the sinking of the Titanic, or the outbreak of World War I, or the struggle of women with the suffrage movement, those were all historical events happening that I could tap into. But beyond that, it was truly the women's health issues that were so prevalent then and today that continue.
They sure do.
That became challenges, and that I thought many of my readers would be able to relate to some, one, or all of those. Health issues.
There's a section in the beginning where Eliza's mother's going through the change, as you want to put it. I'm like, wow, this is 100 years later, and they still haven't figured out what to do.
Mother gone.
Right.
But
they still haven't figured out what to give us. Or how
I know. And even when, she looks into Grey's Anatomy at that point, and she's like, oh, so this is what happens. But there's like no suggestion for how to treat it, how to help women. It's like, and that is one of the things that keeps this book relevant, is that, women still have an issue with being heard when it comes to advocating for their own health. So that's
absolutely
a biggie.
Yes. So really relied on those. I'll give you one quick little fun tidbit behind the scenes when you mentioned the menopause issue.
Yeah.
When I was writing, I only have 2 sons, and as a part of my Christmas gift one year, I said, all I want you to do is to let me read out loud a couple of chapters to you, because you may never read this book. You probably will never be interested in reading. So I said, just randomly, each of you pick a chapter, and I'll read out loud. My oldest son was the first to go, and he goes, okay, chapter 8. Open it up, and we're right in the thrust of menopause for mom. He was banned forever of picking chapters after that.
Can I tell you that your sons have read one more chapter than my son ever has?
They have read it now. 2.5 years later, they've finally gotten through it.
I have 26 books, and he has not read a single one. So
my husband has not, but my kids have.
There you go.
Yeah, there you go. Now, my daughter-in-law has, so we're good with that. So Donnelly made a good comment. She said it was very well researched, and it was. There's meticulous research in this, because you have to know what they went in every class.
Yeah.
And then we should point out that the medical school part is a very small part of the book. I mean, this is Eliza's life for 20-something years. And you do the influenza, illegal abortions, the war. There was a few other things that I was like, there's a lot of research. So how long did it take you
Oh, excuse me again.
Particular issues that were very, very challenging when trying to pull all this together.
Yeah, so the research probably took me at the front end a good year, between just researching what it was to be a woman medical student. Even today, I thought it would still be very relevant. So I interviewed women in medical school at the time. The archives at Drexel, incredible. They gave me digital access, as well as I went there for a trip and spent an entire day in their basement office, and they pulled out files and files and files for me. I had a friend in a critique writing group read the medical scenes for me to make sure that those were accurate. And there aren't too many medical scenes that too disturbing or anything. And I was able to connect with the executive director of the American Medical Women's Association, Dr. Eliza Chin, and she read my final manuscript to make sure I was not only spot on with the medical, but the main characters and her classmates, their emotional responses to being in a scene where they were working as in a class or in a delivery room or something like that.
Now, are any of the events in the book based on real events?
Beyond the straight historical events, there is a scene when Eliza and her classmates are going to watch a surgery.
That's the one I was going to ask you about.
And that is based on reading a autobiography of a Dr. Mary Bennett Ritter. And she wrote that she and her classmates were going to observe a surgery. This was in the 1880s. And it was the first time it was going to be mixed company in the audience of the operating theater, of the male and the female students. And because that never happened, they had separate classes.
Right.
And before they went in, one of the women said to the group around them, "Don't you dare faint. Nobody here can faint. So if you see someone starting to wobble or go pale as it goes, pinch them, hit them, whatever it needs. You cannot faint in front of these men." And not one of the women did, and 3 of the men.
Good for
flat
them.
on the floor.
Yeah.
So I read that scene. I said, "This sounds like it really happened."
Yes, it did. Yeah.
I think that's just that in particular is so great because, there's so much about the weaker sex or whatever. And then, I just feel like throughout history, it's the women who have shouldered so many burdens that go uncredited or they're just not given credit for being as staunch and strong as they are.
Right. And they had to prove themselves.
Yeah.
Doubly so, that they
Doubly
had the
so.
abilities. And it was even purported that the entrance exam in medical school was more difficult than the Jefferson Medical and even Penn across the river for that the men attended. So because they had to really prove that they had the intellect and the ability and the stomach to endure gruesome surgeries.
So I have a question about that then. So when we talk about challenges in research, did you find it harder to find research about the women's role in this part? Like, was it very male centric when it came to medicine, or is there lots out there?
There were a few books. So I was very fortunate that there are a few nonfiction books, including one just all about the Women's Medical College of Pennsylvania untried course that was by Dr. Stephen Peitzman. And that has the whole history of the school itself. So that was incredibly helpful. And I found a few others about women in medicine, early doctors. And I found 2 specifically on the abortion issue that were kind of memoirs written about women, in the 40s and 50s and 60s. So that was helpful in developing that section of the book.
Yeah.
That actually was funny because I've been doing some research for a book that I'm going to work on in the future set in the 1920s. And I've been thinking a lot about the illegal abortions. And it's interesting how when you read like a lot of the Ziegfeld starlets and all that, how many died young of periodontitis?
Oh, sure.
And it's like, and I kept saying, I wonder if periodontitis is like code for got an infection during a back alley abortion. And then you mentioned it and I'm like, oh, yeah, son of a gun. That is it. A lot of women who died of periodontitis.
Yes, for sure. Yeah. Just unclean instruments and everything else.
And aftercare. And
aftercare. Yep.
Yeah.
Being sent home without any care instructions of what you're
Yeah. Well,
and there's some scenes in there where she goes to visit an abortion house. And it's pretty brutal. You're like, ew, this is disgusting. Can't imagine being that desperate, but they were.
Yeah, well, when you don't have options, right?
Right.
So this book has a sequel that's coming out, yes?
Yes.
And so did you always plan on continuing Eliza's story?
Well, I got my arcs too. They're just coming out. It's coming September 15th. No. So you're first-time writer, thinking I had learned everything, wrote a manuscript right around 100,000 words, and I thought I was good to go. And it was going to cover, again, the time period of my grandmother's life that I was taking things to, of 1897 to 1957. I went to a writer's conference, and one of the agent's editors there said, kind of soft pitched the story. And she said, are you out of your mind? You can't do justice to that amount of history in 350 pages. You need to write a 900-page book. And by the way, I don't think you're Ken Follett or Diana Gabaldon.
Yeah.
No, you're trying to market a 900-page book as an unpublished author, and they're just going to be staring at you. Yeah.
And no one's going to pay what it would cost to buy a 900-page book from an unknown author.
Yep.
Yeah.
So best advice I ever received was find a logical stopping point and set your readers up for a sequel. So that's why we left Eliza in 1920 as she's really just embarking on her career. And then we pick her back up in the path beneath her feet in 1936. And take her to 1947. So again, a lot of rich historical events happening.
Sure is.
More mature protagonist.
Yeah.
Which was, kind of different to now work with a main character closer to my age, so I could a little bit more easily relate, and the mother to two grown sons and things like that.
Now, does that mean you're also going to kind of resolve some of the, there's some romantic subplots in there that need resolving?
Yes. So yes, those will be resolved by the end of the sequel. If anybody has read The Unlocked Path, the biggest question I get from book clubs all the time, even though I'm like, my intent was women's historical fiction, writing about strong women, and everyone always asks, what happens with Patrick?
Yeah. That's exactly what I was thinking.
Is Patrick coming back in the sequel? I'm like, well, you'll have to find out.
If he does that, he's got to come back on his hands and knees.
Yeah.
Right. All right. So do you want to ask this one, Barb, or do you want me to?
Go ahead.
All right. Jen. So one of the things that we love to do here when we have an author on is sort of pull back the curtain so we can get a glimpse of like what your day is like and what your routine's like. So what does a typical writing day look like for Janis Robinson Daly?
Well, there is no typical.
Relatable. So relatable.
Because I still work full time. So I'm on my lunch hour in case my boss happened to find this link and is watching. I'm on my lunch hour. So, but a normal day, if you could define it, would be morning is working on some marketing activities that we all know take up a lot of time. So try to post things, respond to posts, queue up a few things, think of new ideas. And then after work hours, weekends is research and writing time. But I'm, because I'm not what I would consider a classically trained writer or anything, I don't have an MFA in creative writing or anything. It takes me a long time to write. And I can't sit down and just bang out chapters at a time. I'm a good writing sprint is maybe 2,000 words, which is what, like half a chapter, not even. And then the nights that I am writing, the next morning I'll review what I wrote the night before after I've kind of slept on it and then see.
Yeah, I do that too.
Some immediate editing. Yeah.
Are you a pantser or a plotter?
A little of both. Writing, again, historical fiction, at least I have the timeline as a plotter that I know I can follow and anchor to those spots.
Right.
Yeah.
But otherwise, a lot is just, where did that character come from that just popped onto the page? Yeah. Okay, now we got to weave her in so it makes sense. Yeah.
By the way, 2,000 words is a heck of a good sprint.
Well, it doesn't happen often. It's usually like 500 or 1,000.
That's my day. Yeah.
Yeah. I agree with you. Like, there is no set schedule for me right now, which is actually driving me a little crazy because I'm a creature of habit. But I find with historical fiction, if I can get 1,000 to 1,500 words a day, I'm really happy with that. So I do write slower in hisfic than I used to before.
Yeah. And I used to write slow in romance anyways. Yeah. A good day for me to be able 700 words.
Yeah. Yeah. And that's where I guess I am a plotter, because I keep an Excel file of like how many words a day I do. And when I'm start to get pushed up against a deadline assigned, then I really am mapping out, okay, I have to get this many words done a day, or at least by the end of the week have averaged out to what the weekly goal is.
Oh, yeah. See, I go with the head in the sand method, where I don't pay attention until I absolutely have to pay attention. So
forward motion. I just look for forward motion.
Right. Now, if you visit me at the end of August, when the book is closer to due, I might actually be paying attention to my word count at that point.
That's me in September and October, because I have, I think, till the end of October for mine. So, right. So what are you currently reading? That's another thing we like to ask our guests.
So beyond the 3 book clubs that I'm in, again, crazy person, which is more assigned reading. I work on, even starting now, for the last 2 years, and next year I'll be back again with my 31 titles to read for Women's History Month in March.
Nice.
Oh, wow.
So that means I've already started now to read books to see if they make the cut or not. So I've gotten it done with a couple. Right now on the list, I'm reading or listening to, counts as reading in my book.
It does.
Tidewater by Libby Grant, which is about Pocahontas.
Oh, yeah, we've read some of Libby's. Her stuff is really. We read her Olivia Hawker book.
Yes.
Libby
Hawker. Libby Hawker. No, Olivia Hawker, Libby Grant.
Libby Grant.
Exactly. Yeah, she says it. But yeah, she's excellent. So
same person, excellent writer.
Yes.
Yeah,
yes.
Okay, so I've already written that down because, like Barb was saying, we read The Fire and the Ore last year and we really, really liked it. So
yeah, she was a writer that we hadn't read, and it was not a book that was necessarily on our radar.
Yeah.
And then we
said,
let's give this a try, because sometimes you got to try something new and it was fantastic. The Fire and the Ore was really, really good.
Yes, it was.
What are you reading, Barb? Other than Janis, what's next for you?
Next for me is an arc of Beatrice Williams, Husband and Lovers.
I did not get that arc. Damn it.
Jealous. Yes.
Beatrice is an auto-buy for both of us. I'm actually dipping into Renee Ryan's arc of The Last Fashion House in Paris. So,
which I don't have, and I just want to point out that.
And I'm excited because I love The Widows of Champagne, and it takes a character who was not so great, and it's her redemption arc in this book, and I'm really excited for that. So So yeah, I'm going to read that arc of Renee's and give a review, and it's coming out later this year.
Fabulous.
So that's what I'm dipping into next.
I was going to say, I have two quick questions. One is, what are you going to write next? Are you planning a third book, or is Eliza done? You're done.
Well, Eliza's done, but I'm not done.
Okay.
I got the bug now.
There you go. So you have an idea percolating?
I do. And I don't want to share too much.
Okay.
I haven't talked to my publisher about it yet. But it's actually my brother, who is my first editor, because he was the English major in college.
Mm-hmm.
Our grandfather was a novelist.
Oh, cool.
Grandfather Robinson wrote in the teens, and 1920s. And so my brother showed up on my doorstep one day with one of his books in hand. Beautiful. We've got a beautiful leather bound copies of his books. And he goes, "Have you read this one? Do you know this one?" And I haven't read that many of his because they're just not my style. And he goes, "Well, we'll read this one. I haven't read it either, but I read the premise and it sounds interesting. I think you'd be interested." So I looked into it, and he actually ghost wrote it as a woman's memoir. In 1916, young woman goes to Germany.
Wow.
During World War I. So I don't want to give away too much, but my thought is to do a rewriting in historical fiction genre of this woman's story, and contemporize it, for today's readers, because my grandfather, Eliza Robinson, wrote very dense, heavy prose.
As they did back then. Yeah.
Yeah, which is typical from the time period, but not so much for today's readers.
Yeah.
And my other quick question is, are you in the book Feisty Deeds, which is the women's fiction anthology?
Unfortunately, I am not. The timeline, it was right when I was finishing and editing and getting my manuscript to Black Rose for my sequel. And I just knew I couldn't commit my time to coming up with something new and fresh. But it's a great book. I have it. I have a copy of it, and look forward to reading it. And many of my friends, in the Women's Fiction Writers Association, I'm friendly with many of them, so I look forward to reading.
I'm going to give it a shout out because it actually is a very interesting book, in that it's 27 or 28 short stories.
Yeah.
And they're all over the place, but they're all about women who changed history or wrote their own path. And all the money goes to scholarship fund for underprivileged writers.
Which I love. I love that.
So
I love that.
Before we say goodbye to you, Donna, what's up next for us?
Next, we are doing, I believe, Eliza Knight's book. Yes.
Yeah.
The Faithful Companion.
Oh, I love that.
Which is a little different, as a point of view character is a corgi. So I'm really excited to see how she did this. I think it's going to be both adorable and heartwarming, and probably a little surprising. I like Eliza's writing a lot, so that is our next book chat.
Sounds
good. Yeah, and we're doing something different later. We're gonna do an update on our book challenge.
Right. So in July, instead of doing a featured author interview, Barb and I are each going to grab a book from our book challenge that we set up this year, and we're going to pick different books and then come back and talk about it at the end of July as sort of a summer feature.
Fun.
And we'll post the dates and everything in the Facebook group, and
we will, and we will make sure that the buy links go up for both the Unlocked Path and her. I wrote it out and I still can't remember. Dear.
Path Beneath Her Feet.
The Path Beneath Her Feet. We'll put the pre-order link up for that, Janis.
Thank you. Yes, it is up.
And we will share both of those and all your socials. So the book is called The Unlocked Path. There's a sequel coming out in September, so buy this one, and then you'll be up to date in time to find out what happens to Patrick.
Exactly.
An important question, let me tell you. Thanks a lot for coming on, Janis.
Thank you so much. Pleasure to chat with you, ladies.
Okay, right. And I'm going to let you go because it sounds like we're getting a storm warning in our area.
Oh, no. Well, be safe, and I will see everybody next time.
All right. Thank you all.
Take care. Bye-bye.